Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my performance review of Nike's cheapest hoop shoe available right now, which is this shoe, and this shoe is the Nike GT Jump Academy. So you guys all know the Nike GT Jumps, right? So this is the budget model or the cheaper version of that shoe. That's why it's the Academy, and it actually retails for very cheap. It retails for only 80 bucks, but also it is on sale right now for some colorways for 56 bucks, which is absolutely insane. So if you guys do want to cop it, try to leave in the affiliate link in the description box. If you do choose to get the shoe, it does help me out if you buy it through the affiliate link in the description box. And as always, thank you guys so much for all the support. And also my socks are available, so if you guys do want to get like a really nice all-purpose sock, it has a lot more padding than the normal sock, right? So it's very comfortable, but also has less padding than a basketball sock, because I feel like basketball socks just have too much padding if you want to wear it casually, you know? So I try to get like a really nice sweet spot so you can work out in it, go out casually, and also hoop in it. So a link to that will be in the description box as well. But let's get it started right off with the traction. So the traction in this shoe is pretty dang crazy. It's pretty weird. We have a triangle pattern here in the forefoot, and it kind of like loops around here in the heel, and it's just like these really kind of like squared off line shapes, right? And it's this really dark red color, and then here at the tip of the toe we have a kind of like a lighter red color, right? And it's a solid rubber, of course. So how's the traction? The traction is freaking phenomenal. I don't know what Nike did with the rubber compound in the shoe, but on a clean court, oh my goodness, this shoe has a really nice bite, and I would say it's top tier. It has a really hard stop. So yeah, if you're playing on a clean court, this shoe has really good traction, and also it has a really nice loud high pitch squeak, which of course has nothing to do with performance. But if you like to have a nice loud squeak like me, this shoe surprised the hell out of me. It has a really loud squeak. But of course, the kind of like Achilles heel for the traction pattern, and also the shoe is, in my personal opinion, the dust performance, right? So dust performance, I wouldn't say is terrible, and I wouldn't say even it's bad, but the thing is, it picks up dust kind of quickly, and if you let too much dust build up on this shoe, it slides out dangerously, right? And when I was playing in this shoe, I actually slid out like really hard, and I actually I fell and I almost hurt myself pretty bad, right? And I was like, what the heck? And that happened to me like 3 times. So yeah, when I was playing on a clean court, I never really experienced that, obviously, but when I was playing on a dustier court, dirtier court, I really had to keep up with my wipes. And because after like falling for the first time, like first 2 times, I was a little bit kind of like just scared to go really hard, you know what I mean? Because I did slip when I was in the paint, right? And I did a hard kind of like plant, and then I slipped and I fell, right? So yeah, if you're playing on a slightly dusty court though, it's not a terrible issue though, I feel like. You know, if you keep up with your wipes, and again, it picks up dust kind of quickly, so just be careful with that. But again, it shouldn't be a huge deal. But if you're playing on a super dusty court, or even like a moderately dusty court, you're gonna need to wipe a lot. And if you don't wipe, then it does get a little bit dangerous. So just be careful with playing with this shoe on like a dusty surface, right? Now moving on to the durability. I mean, durability should be fine. First of all, it's a really cheap shoe, and also the grooves are really freaking thick. Look at that. The grooves are super thick. The grooves are also super deep, and the rubber is really hard. So I mean, you should be fine on an outdoor court. The outsole seems really durable, right? So there is a traction there, a little bit disappointing for it. The dust performance. And now moving on to the heel to toe transition, it feels okay, right? So here in the heel, we have a nice curve shape, and also with this kind of like fully exposed midsole, it has a little bit of compression, right? Just a tiny bit. So it feels overall pretty smooth in the heel. But here in the forefoot, it's a pretty flat shape, you know what I mean? And it's not a deal breaker for me, but I don't really like a flatter shape, you know. I like a more curved shape in my personal opinion, because first of all, it's a slapper, you know what I mean? Like when you're doing heel dominant strides, it kind of slaps, you know, coming from the heel to the forefoot, it slaps a little bit, so it feels a little bit clunky to me, you know, which of course, again, not a deal breaker, but, and also, you know, I feel like there's people that don't really care about that, but for me, it's a little annoying. But one thing that, you know, makes it a little bit better is that it actually has a good amount of forefoot flex though. So that definitely helps make it not feel as clunky, but still a little bit of a slapper, you know what I mean? But it still has a nice flexible forefoot, and a little bit of a spring back, you know what I mean? Not super springy, however. So overall, heel to toe transition is kind of smooth, right? And now moving on to the cushioning setup. So the cushioning setup, it's not nice, but for the price, it's actually pretty nice. You know what I mean? So, if I take into account, I guess retail price, 80 bucks, it's okay. You know what I mean? But if I take into account the sale price, which is 55, 56 bucks, it's pretty dang nice, right? So, yeah, it's nothing compared to like a top tier cushioning setup in my personal opinion, like, you know, the WoW 11, you know, the 8085 Ultra, the Joker 1 GT, which are just super plush, super soft, bouncy, you know, Kai 2. But I feel like the thing that this shoe does well is the impact protection, and also it's like kind of plush, kind of soft, right? So yeah, it just never really hurt my feet. You know, when I'm doing hard landings, even on like pretty hard heel strikes, I didn't really notice my foot. You know, it just felt like it was protected because the foam is actually thick, you know? So as far as the actual foam goes, they don't specify what they're using. It just says it's a pair of soft foams that are stacked on top of each other, which is okay, so I guess it's like a dual density foam, but yeah, it doesn't really do anything else super well, right? There's a little bit of compression here in the heel, but it's like kind of soft, kind of plush again, which is pretty nice, but the core feel isn't super good, you know what I mean? It's a little bit higher up off the ground, not terrible though, but which makes sense. It's the GT jump, and if you're gonna be jumping a lot, you probably want a lot of impact protection, which this shoe provides, you know? So yeah, again, you know, if you're looking for a nice cushioning setup, you're not gonna get it here. It just has kind of like a moderate impact protection, right? It's still pretty good, and you'll be covered in that aspect, but everything else is like, it's okay, you know what I mean? And also, as far as the insole goes, it's a really cheap insole, you know what I mean? There's no graphic on it, which makes sense. You know, they're trying to save money, and yeah, it's just a regular foam insole, but it's not even as soft as like an Ortholite, regular Ortholite insole, you know? And then of course we do have kind of like a regular strobo board, so the underfoot cushion could have been softer, you know, if they gave us a soft mesh strobo board, but still pretty nice once you break it in for the underfoot cushion, you know, once you get going, or at least for me, because I'm not that heavy, right? So there is the cushioning setup there. Moving on to the upper, so we do have like a mesh material, right? And the mesh material is really soft, very comfortable, and really cozy feeling, but definitely not minimal, you know what I mean? And that's something that I really noticed when I was playing in the shoe. So when I was playing in the shoe, I was also playing in the A1s. I got them right over here. I was playing in the A1s and as well as the Sabrina 2, right? So the A1, of course, not the most minimal, but it definitely has a way more minimal feel than the GT Jump Academy. And then if you want to take it to the next level, the Sabrina 2 is super freaking minimal feeling, you know what I mean? And also I was playing in the Dila ones as well, which is also really minimal, you know, it's a guard shoe. So when I was switching to this shoe, it definitely felt a lot bulkier, a little bit, you know, heavier as well, and also kind of like a little bit more cumbersome with the material because it's a little bit like thicker on my foot, you know? But it definitely had a really comfortable feel to it, you know what I mean? Which is, of course, is not a bad thing. It's just, you know, it depends on what you like. For me, of course, obviously I like, you know, I'm a guard, I like a thinner material, you know, something that feels a lot more minimal. And if you're the type of person that likes like a softer feel, cozier feel, and you don't mind like a thicker material, then you should be fine, right? Also, it doesn't feel too cheap though, which I like, you know what I mean? Also, we do have a little bit of fuse for extra durability, you know, even if you are doing toe drag. So yeah, there is a material here in the toe box, and then also it stays pretty much the exact same here in the midfoot as well. It gives a pretty nice supportive feel here in the midfoot as well. And then for the tongue, it's just like not super cozy, you know? I feel like they should have added a little bit more padding to make it a little bit cozier. But yeah, it's around average for the padding. It's also an independent tongue, which usually I don't like. For example, in the AE1, right, the AE1 low actually, it's an independent tongue. When I'm playing in the shoe, it literally, I think it's a left pair that kind of like moves like this, and then I can see my sock here, and I always have to adjust the tongue. It's freaking annoying, especially since the laces don't go through like an eyelet that goes through the tongue, you know? So the tongue never really stays in place, you know? But we have an eyelet here, right here in the middle of the tongue. For this shoe, so it stays in place, not a huge deal, right? And also here in the ankle area, it's not super foamy, but it does, I don't know what it is. It has like a cozier, thicker feel than, you know, like obviously like the Sabrina 2s and stuff like that, but still not super cozy like, what's a super cozy shoe? Oh, like the MBs, you know, the MB4s, MB3s, those are super cozy in the back of the shoe. I would say it's a little bit less than that, but still cozier feel, you know what I mean? So Yeah, honestly, for the price, it feels pretty dang good for the quality. It's soft, it's comfortable, it's cozy, but not super minimal feeling, you know what I mean? And also the material does change up a little bit, you know what I mean? Here in like the toe box and also in the midfoot, we have like a square shaped mesh pattern, right? But here in the back of the heel, we have like it's just like a textile material and it's just lines. It also has a really nice kind of like gradient as well, which I like. So there is the upper there. Moving on to the fit. So I went true to size, or true to my Nike size, and the shoe fits me pretty dang well. So all my Nike shoes have been running a little bit short, so I do go up half a size from my true to size. And I did the same thing here in this shoe, and yeah, it does have a pretty narrow fit, but it's actually not, I don't know why it looks so freaking narrow, but it wasn't hurting my foot or anything like that, right? Also here in the toe box, this mesh material is actually pretty forgiving. It kind of scrunches up, so I can curl my toes up a little bit. It is broken in as well, so it's not like super snug either, you know what I mean? And then length, I'm good to go, of course. So yeah, for me, the fit is pretty nice. It's a snug fit, especially for the width. But if you don't like that, probably go up another half size from your Nike size, right? And you should be good to go. If you have a wide foot though, you definitely will have a little bit of length though if you do that, right? So just be careful with that. But if you have like a skinnier to like a normal size foot, then you should be fine. So there is a fit there. Moving on to the support and lockdown, also no issues, and these shoes actually really supportive feeling as well, right? So lateral containment, I'm good to go. You know, you do have rubber coming up here in the forefoot. I really like how the swoosh dips into like the midsole, right? Also the foam comes up here in the midfoot as well as here in the heel, and also it has an internal TPU heel counter, so it's a really supportive shoe. My foot's not coming out of the footbed. The overall upper is also pretty dang glued down and supportive, especially here in the midfoot area, so my foot's not moving inside of the shoe either, right? So that felt really good for the lockdown, and we do have a kind of like a pointed shape, right? It has a nice wide base as well, so lateral stability was good. And also the ankle support, so the ankle support, it doesn't restrict my ankle movement that much, you know what I mean? But I definitely did notice a difference in feel from obviously my low top shoes that I was, you know, rotating, right? You know, like the A1, the Sabrina 2s, the D-Low 1s, right? So yeah, it definitely, you know, restricts that ankle movement a little bit. It has a little bit more of that, you know, ankle support feel, but it's still not great for ankle support. And also overall torsion support is okay. You know, I would say it's way more supportive feeling than, you know, like the Luka 4s, which is just really freaking flexible and nimble feeling. So yeah, it has more of like that supportive, thicker feel, which you get from like, you know, big man shoes, which this shoe is pretty much, right? So there is a support in lockdown there. Moving on to the weight of the shoe. This shoe isn't super heavy, but it's a little bit bulky feeling, you know what I mean? So as far as the weight goes, it's actually pretty light. Comes in at 11.7 ounces. Let's check the other shoe. 11.85 ounces. So that's actually almost an ounce lighter than the average. The average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces. So this shoe feels pretty dang like lightweight, but a little bit bulky, you know what I mean? Like the upper, like I said, is a little bit stiffer. It's a little bit thicker as well, especially comparing it to shoes like the Sabrina 2, which are just so like minimal feeling, you know? So yeah, which isn't a bad thing, because again, this shoe is made for bigger dudes that want, you know, or prioritize support and also want a little bit more cushion, which makes the shoe feel a little bit higher up off the ground, obviously, right? So yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it all too much, especially when I was playing on a clean court. It actually was pretty enjoyable for me to play in, but obviously not my type of shoe, which I understand, of course. So there is the weight there. And now moving on to the ventilation. Ventilation is actually pretty good. The airflow through this mesh material is pretty good actually, which surprised me, you know? Again, it's not like the best though, you know, compared to like, I don't know, like the Wade Flash or the Liren 5 V2, but it actually has pretty good airflow and it wasn't super hot in the shoe. And now moving on to the aesthetics, I really like it. You know what I mean? It's just a really unique looking shoe, especially with the swoosh placement. And it also doesn't look like an $80 shoe. You know, it looks like a, you know, like $120, $130 shoe. And nothing about the shoe also screams super cheap to me. It feels like well put together. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't seem like a under $100 shoe, which is really, really nice, you know? So there is the aesthetics there. Now wrapping things up. Yeah, so this shoe is actually pretty nice. The only thing that I really didn't like was the dust performance. And when I was playing on a dusty court, I was just like, dude, I don't want to play in this shoe, you know? I just felt unsafe. However, when I was playing on clean court, it was actually kind of enjoyable. The only thing, of course, again, like I am a guard, I am a lighter dude, and I do like more of a lower to the ground feel. I also like a minimal and thinner upper, of course. Which obviously this shoe wasn't made for guards. But if you are a guard and you want something a little bit more supportive feeling, while also having like a pretty lightweight shoe, this also is a pretty nice option. I feel like you can definitely get away with it if you are a guard, right? But of course, also if you are a bigger dude, this shoe is actually pretty nice, you know what I mean? And if you're a bigger dude, if you're just posting up, of course you don't really need as much like traction. So if you are trying to save money, I definitely feel like this is a great option. Again, it's not the best option in my personal opinion, especially since, you know, if you're looking for a really nice cushioning setup, I would suggest, you know, I don't know, like the AG5. The AG5 has really nice cushion. It's more like a big man shoe, you know? Then like the Joker 1, you know, has way nicer cushion, but those shoes are like 130, 140 bucks, I think, you know? This shoe is like 80 bucks. So if you are trying to save that money, this is actually a really nice option. So anyways, that about concludes my performance review of the Nike GT Jump Academy. Again, if you guys want to copy, try to leave in the link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.